Over the last 2 centuries, more than 1,000 reports have surfaced of towering skeletons, some over 8 feet tall, being unearthed from ancient burial sites across North America. These discoveries, chronicled in old newspaper articles, scientific journals, diaries, and even Smithsonian reports, describe remains with peculiar features. Jawbones so large they could fit over a human face, elongated skulls, and even skeletons with double rows of teeth. From coast to coast, these findings have sparked intrigue and speculation, leaving behind more questions than answers. What truths lie buried within these accounts? What secrets about humanity's distant past do these remains hold? In this countdown, we dig deep into some of the most fascinating and controversial reports of giant skeletons found across ancient North America. Be prepared, though. Our number 1 entry might just test the limits of belief. Our journey begins at one of the most significant mound sites in the country, and quite possibly the world. Catalina and the first giant skeletons. Off the coast of California lies a chain of 8 remote islands known as the Channel Islands, 5 of which are safeguarded as part of Channel Islands National Park. These islands, shaped by over 13,000 years of natural and human history, hold countless secrets, some rooted in science, others veiled in mystery. Over time, the islands have transformed into unique ecosystems, harboring over 2,000 species of plants and animals, 145 of which exist nowhere else on Earth. But their history isn't confined to flora and fauna. Santa Catalina Island, often referred to simply as Catalina, is home to a vibrant community of over 4,000 residents and a rich past. Just 22 miles from Long Beach, this island was once inhabited by the Tongva, an ancient Native American tribe that settled there around 8,000 years ago. In 1913, the island became the stage for a peculiar discovery. Dr. A.W. Furstenan, a German naturalist, unearthed what he believed to be the skeleton of an 8-foot-tall man buried beneath Avalon Bay. Surrounding the remains were artifacts that didn't match typical Native American burial traditions, including a strange flat stone inscribed with mysterious symbols. The find appeared to validate an enduring local legend. A race of giants had once roamed Catalina. However, the discovery was fleeting. The skeleton, buried in hard black sand that had once been scorched by fire, crumbled to dust as it was exposed to the air. Only a foot, a jawbone, and a skull were recovered intact, leaving the claim unverified and fueling even more speculation. This wasn't the only story of unusual remains from the Channel Islands. Accounts of a 7-foot-tall skeleton with 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, and double rows of teeth also surfaced. Some theorized that the isolation of these islands had caused unique evolutionary traits to emerge. Glidden's discovery. In the early 20th century, Ralph Glidden, a former carpenter turned self-taught archaeologist, began a relentless quest on California's Channel Islands. Having lived on Catalina Island since he was 15, Glidden developed an intense fascination with the Native American burial sites scattered across the region. By all accounts, he was an eccentric figure with grand ambitions, inspired by the tales of famous archaeological discoveries from around the world. Glidden wanted to make his mark, and he wasn't above bending the truth to do so. He hired a publicist and fabricated credentials, calling himself a doctor or professor of archaeology, despite having no formal education beyond high school. From 1919 to 1928, Glidden conducted extensive excavations, unearthing hundreds of Native American graves and collecting thousands of artifacts, including arrowheads, tools, and flutes crafted from human bones. He claimed to have uncovered evidence of a race of giants, describing these ancient people as having European features, fair hair and blue eyes, rather than Native American ancestry. Glidden's most shocking claims were of skeletons measuring between 7 and 9 feet tall, which he believed were the prehistoric ancestors of the local Native Americans. In 1930, he told newspapers of an extraordinary find. a princess buried upright in an urn, her fingers clasping its rim, surrounded by the remains of 64 children. 5 feet below this burial site, he uncovered the skeleton of a 7-foot 8-inch man, pierced through the abdomen by a spear. According to Glidden, these giants were not primitive beings, but a highly intelligent civilization with advanced technologies far surpassing what was believed possible for their time. He speculated that their knowledge had vanished mysteriously, perhaps due to a catastrophic extinction event. Glidden also claimed the Native Americans revered these giants, burying them in ceremonial graves as a mark of their significance. In total, Glidden reportedly excavated over 800 burial sites, uncovering thousands of artifacts and as many as 4,000 skeletons. He argued that this was no isolated group, but an entire lost civilization, erased by time and buried beneath the sands of Catalina Island. However, Ralph Glidden's discoveries didn't stay buried in the ground. They became the centerpiece of his controversial Catalina Museum of Island Indians, founded in 1924. Hoping to profit from the growing attention his excavations were attracting, Glidden created what he described as a unique and weirdly spectacular institution, but his methods of display were as unsettling as the claims surrounding his finds. The museum was filled with skeletal remains taken from Tongva burial sites. Bones were stacked in piles, and Glidden repurposed human remains as macabre decor. Shoulder blades became cornices, larger bones served as shelves, and skulls adorned the walls and ceiling. He even arranged skeletons in eerie, lifelike poses to shock and intrigue visitors. For 35 cents, guests could tour the museum, but instead of proof of giants, they found a grotesque spectacle that drew more criticism than acclaim. His peers in archaeology dismissed the larger bones on display as fakes, accusing Glidden of purchasing them from gift shops. Mainstream scientists rejected his claims of giants, citing his lack of credible methods. The media was divided. Some labeled him a hoaxer, while others continued to amplify his outlandish stories. John Johnson, an anthropologist from the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, later scrutinized Glidden's work. Johnson noted that photos of supposed giant skeletons were manipulated using forced perspective to exaggerate their size. By 1950, Glidden's museum had lost its appeal and he closed its doors. Still convinced of its value, he attempted to sell his collection. In 1968, the Wrigley family, known for their chewing gum empire, purchased it for $5,000, far less than Glidden had hoped. They later donated the artifacts to the Catalina Museum, preserving a fragment of Catalina's history, though not in the way Glidden had envisioned. Arlington Springs Man. The true story of the earliest inhabitants of the Channel Islands has long been a mystery, and at its heart lies the discovery of the Arlington Springs Man. Found nearly a decade after Ralph Glidden's controversial museum had shut its doors, this groundbreaking discovery highlighted the stark contrast between amateur sensationalism and rigorous scientific inquiry. In 1959, archaeologist Phil Cummings Orr uncovered a set of ancient human remains protruding from a canyon cliff on Santa Rosa Island, 100 miles northwest of Catalina. These bones, buried 37 feet beneath the surface among sediments from the Pleistocene era, hinted at a much deeper history than anyone had imagined. Orr recognized the significance of the find, but also understood the limitations of the dating technology of his time. Carefully encasing the bones in plaster, he transported them to the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, ensuring they would be preserved until science could catch up. Decades later, in the late 1980s, advancements in radiocarbon dating finally revealed the astonishing truth. A femur sample from the Arlington Springs Man was dated to an incredible 13,000 years old, making these the oldest confirmed human remains in North America. This discovery reshaped our understanding of prehistoric migration, suggesting that early humans navigated the coastline by water far earlier than historians had believed. While Glidden's claims crumbled under scrutiny, Orr's methodical approach offered a glimpse into the true history of the Channel Islands. Today, excavations on the islands continue, fueled by advancements in technology and scientific methods. Researchers hope to uncover more about the life and times of the Arlington Springs man, piecing together the story of a people whose existence stretches back to the dawn of human history in the Americas. The Ozark Caves, huge skulls. In 1913, an extraordinary discovery emerged from a remote Ozark cave in Arkansas. Reported by the respected journalist Victor Schoffelmeyer in the New Age magazine, the account described the unearthing of massive human skeletons in a shelter cave near what is now Beaver Lake. Among the remains was a nearly intact skull, distinctly different from modern human anatomy, and a skeleton that measured close to 10 feet tall when partially reconstructed. The discovery was attributed to Dad Riggins, an elderly naturalist and recluse who had spent over a decade living in and exploring the caves of the Ozarks. Riggins unearthed the skeletal remains while sifting through ash layers buried over 3 feet below the cave floor. Alongside the bones, he revealed hieroglyphics etched into the surrounding palisades, carvings believed to be thousands of years old, hinting at a long-lost civilization. In the 1960s, the construction of Beaver Lake submerged the cave, but its legend endured. Decades later, during the filming of Search for the Lost Giants, investigators Bill Vieira and scuba diver Mike Young explored the lake in search of the submerged cave. They discovered a massive shelter cave marked by a 70-foot stone wall at its entrance, evidence of ancient human habitation. Yet, despite their efforts, no further skeletal remains or artifacts surfaced. West Hickory, Pennsylvania, 18th skeleton. In 1870, a headline from the Oil City Times sent shockwaves through the Pennsylvania oil regions. The Cardiff giant outdone, alleged discovery of a giant in the oil regions. What followed was a tale of staggering proportions, detailing the unearthing of what could be one of the most colossal skeletons ever reported. The story began with the discovery of an immense iron helmet, heavily corroded by rust, buried deep beneath the earth. As excavation continued, a 9-foot-long sword was unearthed, a weapon seemingly forged for a being of extraordinary size. But the most startling find was yet to come. The workers reportedly uncovered a skeleton that defied belief, with bones described as remarkably white and teeth that were all intact, astonishingly large and double-rowed. The sheer scale of the skeleton was staggering. It was estimated to have belonged to a figure 18 feet tall. Skepticism naturally surrounds such claims, as an 18-foot-tall human is unheard of in the historical or archaeological record. Yet, the report's detailed descriptions, down to the skeleton's burial 12 feet beneath a mound, hint at an ancient origin, regardless of whether its size was exaggerated. That's a wrap for today. If you're intrigued by stories like this, hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know which ancient mysteries we should uncover next.